He was one of them.
He was our idol.
Bob was our hero.
Not an idol, but we just heard his record. As I said, we listened to his album and it really gave us a buzz, and we played it constantly over and over and over again.
Bob Dylan is an American singer-songwriter, author and visual artist who has been a major figure in popular culture for more than 50 years. Much of his most celebrated work dates to the 1960s, when songs such as Blowing in the Wind in 1963 and The Times They Are A-Changing in 1964 became anthems for the civil rights movement and anti-war movement. His lyrics during this period incorporated a wide range of political, social, philosophical and literary influences, defied pop music conventions and appealed to a flourishing counterculture. Since 1994, Dylan has published 8 books of drawings and paintings, and his work has been exhibited in major art galleries. He has sold more than 100 million records, making him one of the best-selling music artists of all time.
I mean, I heard of Bob through John. He'd played the records to me, and it was just great.
I think it was freewheeling.
We love Bob Dylan.
If you enjoy these videos, please remember to hit the like button because it does help us out a lot, and comment below who your favourite celebrity is that you'd love to see in our upcoming videos. His full name is Robert Allen Zimmerman, also known as Zimmy, Bobby, Zimbo and the Bard. As of this production, he is 78 years old and was born on May 24th, 1941 in Duluth, Minnesota in the United States. He stands at 1.71 meters tall, or 5 feet 7 inches. Bob Dylan started dating his backup singer Carolyn Dennis in January 1985. They married on June 4th, 1986, but later divorced in October 1992. The couple had a daughter together, Desiree Gabrielle Dennis Dylan, born on January 31st, 1986. Sally Kirkland and Bob Dylan had a relationship in the 1970s. Sally Kirkland is an American film, television and stage actress. She received Golden Globe and Independent Spirit Awards and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress for her performance in Anna in 1987. Bob Dylan and Sarah Lowndes married on November 22, 1965. They later divorced on June 29, 1977. The couple had 4 children together: son Jesse Byron, born on January 6, 1966, daughter Anna Lee, born on July 11, 1967, son Samuel Isaac Abraham, born on July 30, 1968, and son Jacob Luke, born on December 9, 1969. Dylan also adopted Lowndes' daughter Maria from her previous marriage. Dana Gillespie and Bob Dylan had a relationship in 1965. She is an English actress, singer and songwriter, originally performing and recording in her teens. Over the years, Gillespie has been involved in the recording of over 45 albums and appeared in stage productions such as Jesus Christ Superstar and several films. Mavis Staples and Bob Dylan had a relationship in the 1960s. Mavis Staples is an American rhythm and blues and gospel singer, actress and civil rights activist. She has recorded and performed with her family's band, the Staples Singers, and also as a solo artist. Famously known groupie Chris O'Dell and Bob Dylan had a relationship in the 1960s. Joan Baez and Bob Dylan had a relationship in the 1960s, and they frequently performed together. Joan Chandos Baez is an American singer, songwriter, musician and activist. Her contemporary folk music often includes songs of protest or social justice. Baez has performed publicly for over 60 years, releasing over 30 albums. Susan Rotolo and Bob Dylan dated from 1961 to 1964. Rotolo appeared alongside Dylan on the cover of his album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan. Rotolo, known as Suze Rotolo, was an American artist. Dylan later acknowledged her strong influence on his music and art during that period.
And we'd heard much more of him and knew much more about him.
It was a great honour to meet him. We had a crazy party the night we met. I went around, I thought I got the meaning to life that night.
Dylan was born Robert Allen Zimmerman on May 24, 1941 in Duluth, Minnesota, to parents Abram and Beatrice Zimmerman. He and his younger brother David were raised in the community of Hibbing, where he graduated from Hibbing High School in 1959. Driven by the influences of early rock stars like Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Little Richard, the young Dylan formed his own bands, including the Golden Chords, as well as a group he fronted under the name Elston Gunn. While attending the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis, he began performing folk and country songs at local cafes, taking the name Bob Dylan. In 1960, Dylan dropped out of college and moved to New York, where his idol, the legendary folk singer Woody Guthrie, was hospitalized with a rare hereditary disease of the nervous system. He visited with Guthrie regularly at his hospital room, became a regular at folk clubs and coffee houses in Greenwich Village, met a host of other musicians, and began writing songs at an astounding pace, including Song to Woody, a tribute to his ailing hero. In the fall of 1961, after one of his performances received a rave review in the New York Times, he signed a recording contract with Columbia Records, at which point he legally changed his surname to Dylan. Released in early 1962, Bob Dylan contained only 2 original songs, but showcased Dylan's gravel voice singing style in a number of traditional folk songs and covers of blues songs. Much of his most acclaimed work was during the 60s, though his works have spanned 5 decades. A number of Dylan's early songs, such as Blowin' in the Wind and The Times They Are A-Changing, became anthems for the US civil rights and anti-war movement. Dylan's connection with the 60s protest movement became more apparent in 1963 with Dylan's relationship with Joan Baez, an established singer within the movement. Dylan continued to try new styles, and in 1965 he released Bringing It All Back Home, a half-acoustic, half-electric style which showcased the new side of Dylan, though his new styles were not always supported by his old followers, and in 1965, at the Newport Folk Festival, he was booed while on stage. This did not deter Dylan. Over the next 3 decades, he continued to reinvent himself, producing some of his most innovative work. Dylan also branched out into film, and in 1973 appeared in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid. In 1979, Dylan declared himself a born-again Christian, which inspired the song Slow Train. This song won Dylan his first Grammy Award. In 1989, Bob Dylan was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and in 1997, he became the first rock star ever to receive Kennedy Center honors. He has since written and performed many songs, including soundtracks for films. Dylan has been described as one of the most influential figures in the 20th century, musically and culturally. He was included in the Time 100 Most Important People of the Century, where he was called Master Poet, Caustic Social Critic and Intrepid Guiding Spirit of the Counterculture Generation. In 2008, the Pulitzer Prize jury awarded Bob Dylan a special citation for his profound impact on popular music and American culture, marked by lyrical compositions of extraordinary poetic power. In 2017, Bob was the recipient of a Nobel Prize in Literature. He is the only singer-songwriter to win a Nobel Prize for Literature due to the poetry of his songs. Bob Dylan's net worth is $200 million. Bob Dylan built his own Malibu compound in Point Dume. The designers and architect were famous for their work on homes of rock stars and pro athletes, including Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. The Dylan Mansion, a hodgepodge of Santa Fe, Spanish and Moorish appointments, including a Russian-styled copper dome crowning the tallest tower, might be the most eclectic property ever built. The designer's almost religious adherence to the aesthetics of Spanish colonial and missionary revival movements in Southern California is his calling card. Bob Dylan drives a Cadillac Escalade.